Over 20 years ago, my niece Katie came out to me as gay and also to her mother, my sister Ellen. After a while, she and her partner decided they wanted to have a commitment ceremony with the family there to celebrate with them. We agonized about how to tell my mother, her grandmother. We finally decided my sister would soften her up with some wine and then have the conversation. So they had a little wine, and my sister broached the subject nervously, and my mother's reaction was, "Well, I knew that, didn't you?" And she promptly offered to pay for the airfares of the whole extended family to attend that celebration. After a while, my niece Katie, with the help of a gay male friend, had a baby girl. And that baby girl grew up with two sets of loving gay parents and four sets of grandparents. And later this month, that baby girl will be getting married. If it weren't for the pandemic, we would all be there.
Good morning. I'm glad to be a part of today's Pride service. My name is Madeline Davidson, and I am a lesbian. I came out in 1988. But today, that's not what I'm talking about. Instead, I'm going to talk to you about my process related to my transgender son. He and I are very connected and close. We communicate well and have a wonderful relationship. I'm going to do my best to tell my story, not the story of my child. It's somewhat of a challenge since both stories are intertwined. You might think it was easy for me from the beginning. After all, I'm an old hippie and was vegetarian for 10 years. I'm a feminist, a lesbian, a liberal Democrat, and for God's sakes, a member of UCG since 1978. I've been to many marches on Washington for pro-choice, LGBTQ plus rights, women's rights, and locally I've marched for LGBTQ Pride, Black Lives Matters, and more. Overall, I'm rather earthy crunchy in my approach to life. Even though I was in agreement conceptually with transgender people, there were places I still struggled with it. In my lesbian community, where I'm attracted to butch women and know many butch women, I see women coming to terms with all types of presentation to the world. Wearing men's clothing, no big deal. Looking masculine, no big deal. In addition, I wished for people to love and accept all of who they were in their body at birth. I had concerns about the risks related to surgery and hormones. I couldn't quite wrap my brain around it. But mostly, I was fine with people who are transgender, queer, and identifying in any way that is their most comfortable. In the beginning, with Caleb's transition, it was a bit hard. In 1980, Kevin and I had our second child, who was born female and lived female until about age 20. She was a delightful being. In her late teens, she came out as a lesbian. She changed her name from Vanessa to Van. In 2006, Van moved to Berkeley to live with friends. Later that year, after many conversations with Kevin, Becky, and me, we received the email sent to family and friends about our child's transformation from Van to Caleb. He talked about the move to Berkeley, allowing space to explore the choice to present himself without any history or preconceived notions. He gave many details in his email letter that I won't give here. He closed his letter with this vital statement: "It is also important to remember that I am still me. I feel the same inside, just more comfortable in my skin." I mourned the loss of my daughter, and now I had to do the work to feel more comfortable having a son. I didn't see this coming. Before age 25, there just weren't clues that led me to know what was to come. It took me 1 or 2 years to really work through my sadness and misunderstanding. Through this time, Caleb and I kept talking. My friends and I kept talking. My family and I kept talking. Through these many conversations and being with Caleb, I stretched and grew into being a better mom. My beloved child was still my beloved child. My tender-hearted, compassionate, intelligent, warm, loving, fun, capable, and sweet child was still all of those things. Nothing else mattered. Caleb and I talked often and had face-to-face trips. Each connection was easier and better. I still wasn't 100% okay with Caleb's transition. I did know that this was my work, not his. Soon after his transition, he had a major health scare with cancer. That concern moved me into a place where I immediately was 100% on board with all aspects of who Caleb was in the world. The most important thing to me was that Caleb was alive, healthy, and continued to live his good life. Here we are 15 years later, and our relationship is regular. Caleb is my son. I easily say he, him, and his. I see him being happy and fulfilled in his life, in this world, and in his body. I may never fully understand. I don't need to understand. I just need to love him and to be in a relationship with him, supporting him as my cherished child. That's all there is to it. When I think of those things, it's simple. I have a fabulous son. How lucky am I? Thank you.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll
Happy Pride. My name is Jim Harper, and I'm here today to talk about how I met my soulmate here in Gainesville, Florida, so many years ago. it was 1994, and I was living abroad, working as a teacher in Kuwait, when I decided I needed to go back to school. And so that year, I wound up here in Gainesville at the University of Florida to study journalism. And then a few months later, I found myself at a Valentine's Day party in 1995. And that party changed my life. So I want to back up and talk a little bit about how I got to that point. So the year before 1995 was pretty tough. So I spent a lot of time listening to the song Hero by Mariah Carey to kind of build up my strength over and over again and believe that I had hope. And I did believe I had hope. When I came here, I found a really healing place. I found great therapists and professionals who really helped me work through my issues. And this was really the beginning of my coming out story. And one of the big things that really helped me too was the university and its Pride Student Union. So back then it was called the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual Student Union. And I recently learned it had really only formalized in 1991, so it was only a few years old. But that was a great place for me to go and learn and kind of try to integrate with this gay community that I really didn't know much about. So because of that involvement, I got invited to this Valentine's Day party. I really hadn't been to many gay parties, and I was excited and happy to go, but didn't know exactly what to expect. So what was the setting for this party? Well, it's a typical place in Gainesville, at least back in the 90s it was. So if you know where the Publix at Butler Plaza is, there was a trailer park right behind that. Now it's all developed, but back then, you know, it was a normal place for students to live in a trailer park. So that's where I went, and I got to the party a little bit early. So when I walked into the trailer, there were very few people there. I could smell pizza. There were some welcoming faces, so I walked over to the kitchen counter, and the first guy I met, he said, "Welcome to the Gator Christian Club." And I panicked. And he must have seen the look of panic on my face, because he broke out laughing. But this sent my mind tumbling back to years ago when I was an undergraduate student, and I had been the leader of a Christian club on my college campus. But then I shook that off, and I started laughing too, and I realized I was in the right trailer, in the right place for this party. And we ate pizza, we had fun, and a little while later, a few people walked in. A young woman named Maria introduced me to her friend, who was a very handsome young Cuban-American man. His name is Yohandre. He's wearing a colorful vest. And we just said our hellos, and that was about it. Until later in the party when someone asked me, "Are you going to the club?" And that's all you needed to say, because I think it's the same today, but back then, there was only one gay club to go to, the University Club. And I said, "Yeah, let's go." So I went to the club, Yohandre went to the club, and the others at the party, many of them also went. And we danced, and we had fun, and we danced some more. And then there was this one moment when it was a crowded dance floor, and yes, this is going to sound very corny, but I felt like my eyes locked with Yohandre, and the rest of the world disappeared. And who knows, it could have just been like an allergic reaction or something, but I distinctly remember that. And then saying goodnight as well, we touched hands and parted, because he stayed with his friends and I went on my way. But something happened inside of me, and it changed me. And a few days later, I gave him a call, and actually when I called him, he was a little confused, and I had to remind him who I was. So I reminded him who I was, that we had met, and I wanted to get to know him more. And so as of February 17th, 1995, our relationship began, and that was our anniversary date of our first official date, February of 17th. And then flash forward a couple decades later, almost, to August 16th, 2013. We had our second anniversary, which is when we got legally married. So we're really fortunate. We have two anniversaries, the one when we met and the one when we married. And I just want to say I'm really grateful to the university community, to the people here in Gainesville who made it possible for me to heal, to come out, and to find true love. And if that's what you're looking for, keep your hope alive. It can happen. Happy Pride.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. So I'm Jackie Davis, and this is my wife, Mary Fukuyama. Mary and I started dating. We met at UCG, and we started dating in 1991, the same year that UCG began its open and affirming process. Today, as LGBT rights, and especially transgender rights, feel so threatened, it's hard to remember how far we've come in the last 29 years. But just to put it in perspective, Ellen DeGeneres didn't come out until 1997, and the city of Gainesville passed a horrible anti-gay ordinance in 1992. It was way different back then.
So when Jackie first started to invite me to join her to go to a movie or go canoeing, I thought, no way am I going to fall for a straight woman who's just going through a divorce. But then I saw her at a rock concert, a women's concert, held at UCG no less, and I became interested. We went canoeing on the Rainbow River. It's been downstream ever since.
We got married in 1997, one of the first weddings in the new sanctuary. We had a big party with friends and kids. Sandy and Larry did our ceremony in the round. And for our reception in what is now Reimer Hall, our youngest son's swing band played, and Larry Reimer joined in on trumpet.
So UCG has honored and supported our relationship long before the rest of the country or the federal government. Some ways of how we were supported by UCG are dancing together at the winter party. We don't take for granted how wonderful it is to feel accepted, dancing together. LGBT and friends potlucks, seminars about legal rights, and the Sea of Blue Gay and Straight Together t-shirts at the first Pride Parade that UCG marched in. The real support was in recognizing and honoring our relationship and treating us just like any other married couple.
We renewed our wedding vows in 2014 in California because it still wasn't legal here in Florida. It was a smaller ceremony with just our kids and grandkids and a few West Coast friends, but Larry and Sandy were there to officiate our this time legal marriage.
Well, we feel so lucky to have had a 30-year relationship, and we can't imagine how it would have been without the support from UCG. We've always known that you've got our backs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.